And this is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI and our CBSI Talking Business interview series, talking with leaders in the field of digital marketing, insurance, banking, customer service, and business education. And all to highlight our team at CBSI, we provide insurance-based benefits to the credit card and payments industry. Now, today we get a chance to talk to Jack Hojnar from our Chicago office. Jack is an expert in a lot of things, almost everything digital, I have to say, and keeps and runs a lot of our programs. Jack, good to see you. How are you today?
I'm great. I pay you well to say nice things about me. Thank you.
Oh, you deserve it. And Jack, we thought we would do a little bit of a year-end review as we're now into December, and some big trends this year. I think you got to start with still the recovery from the pandemic, impact on consumer spending. In a lot of our industries that take credit cards, and also on the business side, improvement. What do you see some of the big trends we talked about, work with our clients on in 2022?
Well, so there's two primary categories that we support, right? We're talking about retail and travel. And so in looking back at those two categories, travel is slowly starting to pick up. It's not nearly where it was in 2019, and that's the benchmark because that's pre-COVID era. And so we're still a little bit below those trends, a few percentage points actually. Holiday travel went up compared to last year for obvious reasons because people could. I think a bigger predictor, we're getting a little bit ahead maybe into a part two series of what we're going to do here, is that the expectation is travel is going to increase considerably. More people are starting to plan for 2023. So overall in travel, we saw an increase and an uptick certainly over previous years. More people feeling comfortable getting on the road, more people feeling comfortable getting in planes. International travel is likely to pick up as well. So that's the travel side of things. On the retail side of things, beginning in October, we saw month-to-month increase according to a couple of leading economic indicators that we follow, that there was despite the economy and everything that's going on, a 1.3% increase month over month since October. And I was trying to find some data regarding holiday sales. I just didn't have enough time to get it for us. So consumer spend still seems to feel pretty confident and increased over last year.
Very good. Well, we were down at a credit card, travel and marketing and loyalty program conference run by our friend Jason Steele down in New Orleans this September, and seemed to be a lot of optimism that things were returning to normal. More so on the consumer side, the business side was coming back. In fact, we were out at a conference on the road in New Orleans. Things were busy. Was a good sign at the convention center there. But still room. Business travel, people are still using Zoom extensively for doing meetings. How do you see the business side coming back in 2022 and going into next year?
I think I love the question because I think it's an interesting scenario that's taking place right now. We've proven that we can work, many industries at least have proven that they can work remotely. So that started to change the dynamic of the workforce. We've also seen in some trends, at least things that I've been reading, that there has now been this interest to get back to an office, not across the board, but to create more of a hybrid situation. I personally work remotely, so to speak, in this wonderful hybrid office. And so there's an increase of trying to keep that flexibility going. So as far as trends go, there seems to be an increase in conference attendance. There's this need for people to get out. As much as we may have all liked working from Zoom and sitting in our pajamas doing conference calls, the need for human interaction and connection seems to be getting back into the fold.
No, I agree. I think there is a return to work. I mean, I just see, and there's plenty of traffic in 5 o'clock in White Plains, New York, where I live. Leaving the city and going into New York City. It seems like people are driving a lot more. Maybe not taking mass transit like they did in the past. Cruise industry seems to be picking back up too. You see a lot of activity there. The cruise lines are getting some of their big ships out, and there seems to be a lot of activity back in that segment.
Yeah, for sure. To be sure is everything that we're talking about. There is definitely exhaustion from the COVID flu and pandemic that we had. And yet at the same time, there's still concern that it could rear its ugly head in some form or fashion. So we actually at CBSI have a product that's designed for that. You probably know we ironically call it our, interestingly call it our COVID-19 protection plan, because we want to make sure that as travelers go different places on cruises, et cetera, and in case there is an illness that breaks out, we have plans in place that can support that. So as far as travel goes and the type of travel, it's interesting that you mentioned cruises, Ken, because that's definitely on the rise. I'm trying to find a stat as we're talking. So one doesn't come to mind. I do know that there's been an increase in discussion. Again, we're kind of drifting into another topic, but there's been an interest in off the grid type vacations where people can really go someplace, get away. And sometimes that involves multiple forms of transportation. So whether it's plane, car, boat, et cetera, we're just seeing a lot more diverse solutions to vacations and traveling coming up. And then also related to that is what they're calling bleisure, which you may have heard of, which is your business leisure travel. So me coming out, for example, to business meetings on Thursday and Friday to meet with you in New York, and then turning Saturday and Sunday into a chance to spend time in New York City. So we're seeing an increase in that type of travel also.
Very good. Now on the retail side, still never-ending increase in online purchasing through Amazon and other online channels. Customers got real comfortable with that during the pandemic, and that trend is continue. How do you see the return to retail stores, but also just the ever-ending increase in online purchasing?
Yeah, so there's online purchasing is going to continue to grow. We've seen that. We see brick and mortar stores and their classic name dropping down about 0.2% every year. We continue to see that trend. It's interesting in some of the metrics that I'm looking at here, furniture, building materials, health and personal care have all gone up, at least month over month by about 1 to 2%. Sales have been down, for interestingly enough, electronics, sporting goods, musics, and some other hobby type things. Not quite sure what that means necessarily, but those are the trends for now.
Yeah, I've been encouraging local small businesses, local retailers to try to promote themselves more on digital, different channels, new merchandise they have coming in the store, because people are so accustomed now to getting promotions online on their mobile phones and reacting to them. So the local retailers need to do the same thing to compete with the national retailers that send out multiple messages a day. I would say also the thing we saw is we did a series of events with community bankers this year, helping them their programs as they're working to with their communities coming out of the pandemic. But the big thing they talked about is fintechs, trying to find some technology solutions, one that either makes them more efficient or two, helps them provide a new benefit to their group of customers. And we're hoping to do more with that going into 2023.
Fintechs is a great category. We've been tracking it for a number of years now. Obviously, technology affects all of us, and the more that banks can become nimble and provide different services, the more attractive they are to all generations of bankers. What's interesting is that the crypto issue that took place, we're all well aware of that, or most people are, still allowed for the foundation for the blockchain technology, which continues to be a tool and a resource that many are starting to use and apply through a bunch of different services. One thing that I've also noticed is a increased talk of tokenization, which is different than encryption. Yet, in fact, we're working on some tokenization products with some of our partners right now, which is just a way to keep the business systems flowing while securing the process too. That all connects to fintechs, et cetera, and so on. So you're seeing a morphing of those, what I would call maybe nimble technologies, working their ways now into the larger banks and organizations.
Okay, I like that, nimble technologies.
There you go.
Jack Hojnar, do you have perhaps a final thought on what you see going into 2023?
Yeah, so I'd love to have a second conversation. In fact, I'd like to have two more conversations with you. One could be on the trends of marketing and what us marketers have been doing. which I think would be a really interesting dynamic, talking about everything from social media analytics and social media onwards and upwards, artificial intelligence, et cetera. But looking forward to 2023 in retail, spend is going to continue to increase just a little bit more slowly than normal. On travel, one of the interesting things that I read this morning was how more hotels are trying to replicate the Airbnb model. And so there's been a shift from hotels to the Airbnb model. And now we're starting to see a shift back. For example, hotels are offering more meal plans. So you get your food, they're offering more kitchen, or they're remodeling their hotels to create a more kitchen-like environment, because there was an impact on hotel spend because of Airbnb. So we'll see how that plays out next year.
Okay, we'll look forward to those discussions. Glad to always have our chats with Jack Hojnar from our Chicago office, and really an expert in everything digital, and keeps a lot of our programs up and running. And we appreciate what you do, Jack. And so we'll do another talk before the end of the year. And again, this is Ken Kraetzer for Cbsi. We're based in Harrison, New York. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. Very proud, under our leadership of our founder, Bob Conti. And we love highlighting the work of our team based in Harrison, New York. So thank you for watching, and have a great day.
Thanks, Ken.